Hello everyone and welcome to another top 5 records video, and one I've been looking forward to doing for quite some time, because today I'm going to be ranking 10 pressings of The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. And I've been looking at a lot of websites trying to hunt down the pressings people are talking about, are enthusiastic about. So this is a very interesting and challenging list, and I'm holding them here. 10 different pressings of Dark Side of the Moon. Now, this album is specifically interesting because a lot of people experience it, including I, as an incredible audiophile experience. So, I mean, this is a very good sounding album, and when will it sound best? Without further ado, I'm going to start the counting. On the number 10, I have actually two pieces of vinyl. Actually, three pieces of vinyl. It's the 50th anniversary, which was released last year in a standalone edition on black vinyl, the one I'm holding here. And here I have the one that was just released a week ago on two pieces of vinyl with the ultraviolet artwork on there. Now, I'm not gonna get it out of its box right now. If you're curious about it, check out my video here in which I unbox this pressing. Basically, these two are together at number 10. Why? It's the same mastering, only different discs. Now, I would be lying if I would say that they are exactly the same sounding. They are almost the same sounding. In my experience, there is a thin hairline in difference. What is the difference? Now, first of all, I'm checking my notes here. It's got good high. It's got not so much punch. It's not so detailed in the mid. It doesn't have a lot of bass, but still, this is a good sounding pressing. You know, it's a good sounding album. Especially, I should hold up the this one because when you take a look at the idea that this is reissued 50 years later, some people say it's money grabbing. Well, you pay about 20 or 25 bucks for this pressing. It's a good present for somebody who's just getting into Pink Floyd. You got the poster inside, you got the stickers inside. It's a good way to get started if you like Pink Floyd, and it's not a bad pressing. So I wouldn't also call it this money grabbing. This is not made for the fans. This is made for the fans, the UV one, and that's pretty expensive. I've paid about 68 euros for this one, and the difference between the mastering of these two is minor. I just had the idea that this one ran slightly smoother sound wise, a bit smoother sound, but I'm talking about a hairline of difference. Also, this is a collector's item. If you want to find the best sounding version, do not buy this one. Not because it's bad, it's a good sounding pressing. It's a good sounding pressing, but it's not worth its value when looking out for the best sounding version. So that is my number 10. I'm going to go to number 9. What I have here is a rather mystery to me. I'm holding out a Canadian pressing. I always assumed it would be a first Canadian pressing, but I can't find a lot of information about it on Discogs. It's in a very good state. It says it is printed in the USA, but the mastering is also from Capitol. So I imagine it has mastered by Capitol in the stamper. So I imagine this is what a US one should sound like. Yet it has some identity problems. Canada, I can't find the year of release. It's a good pressing. The vinyl is actually the noisiest I have heard for this video. It doesn't have as much detail as the other pressings, but it's got a nice mid and a very bass heavy pressing. It's pressed pretty loud, which is also interesting. And it's nice pressing, not a bad pressing. It's just the least detailed one of the lot. But it does have punch, which the 50th anniversary lacks. It has the 50th anniversary to me. Although a good pressing, it's the one from all the 10 pressings I've been listening to that gets the easiest listening fatigue. No fatigue here, but just not a lot of detail. On number 9, the Canadian pressing, year unknown to me. Now, number 8. I bought this one because a lot of people were talking online about get a quadrophonic pressing of the Dark Side of the Moon. Now I have it here, and this is a Australian quadrophonic pressing. It's in near mint state. These pressings go for, I should check this, for about average on $68. So I think it's pretty expensive, and it's a bit expensive if you want to find the best sounding pressing, because there is a lot of information and detail in the high. If that's your thing, very present, beautiful information, detail in the high, and that's also what the hype is all about. The information in the high end, but it lacks bass, it lacks punch, it doesn't have the haunting atmosphere and quality to it that most of the Dark Side of the Moon pressings have. Yet very nice detail, and it has an incredible and remarkable presentation of the voice and the guitar. So on the number 8, the Australian quadrophonic pressing of Dark Side of the Moon. And we're going to number 7. Now, I'm gonna make some enemies here, because some Dark Side of the Moon fans are Dark Side of the Moon fans. Are they actually the fans of this label? Well, they keep boasting about this pressing, and it is, I believe, even the most expensive pressing I have in this video. I'll double check the price. Yeah, it's one of the most expensive in this video. This one is the MoFi from 1979, and it goes for about €145. Now, this is the tough thing with MoFi fans. A lot of people started buying them initially in the 70s and 80s, trying to find the best sounding version, and sometimes MoFi did it, and sometimes they just messed around with the equalizing a lot and had some nice detail. This is not one of their great pressings. Again, it's not bad, it's not like they're fooling you, it's not like you're buying one of the worst ones out. I mean, it's a solid pressing. It has a lot of detail. Most of the detail is in the high, though, so I have the idea that this one might be boosted in the high. Smiley face equalizing, a well-known MoFi trick, because it lacks punch and it lacks bass. And that's the thing with Dark Side of the Moon. I mean, it's an incredible sounding album, and it has a lot of dynamic, but it does incredible things on all frequencies. So it's not one of those albums you can just sit down and relax to. It pushes you in the back of your couch. It gets you to the front. It gets you jumping around. It's a very dynamic album, and this one, mostly gives on the level of high-end frequency. So it lacks punch, it lacks bass. So that's why it is at this spot. The number 7. Am I correct? Yeah, this is spot number 7. I'm gonna go to the number 6. This one you might not have seen coming. This is the first Dutch pressing. This is the one I started out with, and I was rather surprised because I bought this one 20 years ago for about $4. First Dutch pressing, and it's beautiful. It's very clear. It's a gorgeous sounding version. It has a very incredible stereo image, nice mid frequencies. This is a very good pressing of Dark Side of the Moon. I'm very impressed by it. I did not expect I would hear this listening back to it. So, on number 6, the first Dutch pressing of Dark Side of the Moon. And we're going forward to the number 5. This is one of the big guns. A lot of people are incredibly enthusiastic about this. It's one of the more expensive pressings in this video in the comparison. It is the 30th anniversary. Am I holding it correctly? Oh yeah, you see the triangle is just a lot bigger here. I didn't notice that before. Or should I put... I'm holding this, holding it up right now. This is the 30th anniversary pressing of Dark Side of the Moon, and it is mastered by one of the great mastering engineers, Kevin Gray. It has an incredible stereo image. It has beautiful silent vinyl. It doesn't have as much punch as some of the other pressings, especially the pressings that I'm going to be talking about in the next couple of minutes. It is a very focused and controlled sound. It's not like not a lot of sounds are bleeding, if you understand what I mean. It is very dynamic. Yet, and that's why I put it at the fifth place. I'm going to be talking about some 70s pressings which are somewhat more powerful, have much more punch. This is a gorgeous, very nuanced, bright, and very good. I could imagine if you are there are different types of audiophiles. You have the audiophiles that want the most controlled, detailed sound, not as much, very silent vinyl, um, versus people who want punch, closeness, edge. This is I can understand the hype with regards to audiophile lovers. It's a good pressing. It's a very good pressing, and it's one of the best later repressings, perhaps even the best later repressing. For the 30th anniversary, Kevin Gray remastered one on number 5. On number 4, I think this might be the biggest surprise for people who like to hunt down Dark Side of the Moon pressings, and I did not know this when I bought it. But this is another Dutch pressing. I do not know the age of this pressing. I do know that something is different about this one. This one has an H and an N in the dead wax. I can't show you the dead wax, but it pretty much looks like an ordinary Dutch pressing, but the H and the N indicate that it's mastered by somebody else. Somebody named Hans Nouse. And it's very interesting because if you put this one next to the first Dutch, which is already very impressive, this one is even more impressive. It's louder. It's pressed louder. About 4 dBs louder than the Dutch one. It has more bass. There seems to be even more detail. There's a lot of punch in the mid. It has a beautiful dark sound and it is very good in detail. I have never heard of Hans Nouse. I live in the Netherlands. I'm a Dutch vinyl freak, but this man made an incredible pressing of the Dark Side of the Moon. And I'll be playing this more frequently. And that's just even at number 4. The Dutch Hans Nouse pressing. And this one goes on Discogs for about $22. Now, I mean, that's value for your money. Number 3. This one used to be my favorite until just about 1 and 2 weeks ago, because the number 1 and number 2 I found very recently. I've been playing this one a lot. It's the UK 1977 5th pressing of Dark Side of the Moon. What's so special about this one? Well, it's been mastered by Harold T. Muss. And Harold T. Muss has done a lot of great work on some Pink Floyd albums. As a matter of fact, he has improved some of these later reissues sound-wise with regard to the first ones. He is an incredible engineer and knows what to do with Dark Side of the Moon and Pink Floyd in general. It's a very dynamic pressing. It is very dynamic. Most dynamic one I've been talking about yet. It has gorgeous bass. It has incredible punch. It is just a masterpiece of engineering. And this one is not as expensive as well. You can buy it for an average of $37. And I find this one more frequently. It's not really rare, but it's a gorgeous, brilliant version. And I'm sure you'll love it when you hear it. On number 3, the Harold T. Muss 5th UK from 1977. On number 2, and I've got to be clear, number 1 and number 2 are very tight. They are very close to one another. Not that they particularly sound the same, but the experience of listening to this album on number 1 and number 2 is mesmerizing. The quality is just incredible. And if you are lucky enough to find and afford number 1 or number 2, go ahead, buy them. I mean, there's also a matter of taste involved. It's a very thin hairline of difference. In any other world, this would have been a number 1. But it's not. It's number 2. It's the first German pressing, and you can recognize it by the circle on the back. I found this a week ago or 2 weeks ago at the Dutch Record Fair in Den Bosch. It still has the poster. It still has the stickers. It's in, well, the cover is Fiji. The vinyl is near mint. It sounds incredible. I paid $35 for it, but I was lucky because the average price you will pay for this one is about $52. This one has even more detail than any of the pressings. Even it has more detail than the number one. It has crazy dynamics. It's very clear. It's very tight. It is a very precise sound, very precise representation of this album. Um, it has yet less punch and slightly less dynamic than the number one I'm going to be talking about. But if you find this German one, don't let it slip, because the amount of detail and its precise sound might just be what you're after. And in that case, you'd rather have this one than the number one, because the number one, here it comes, the my favorite sounding pressing of Dark Side of the Moon is the second UK. Now, I did not find a first UK for this video, and I think a lot of Pink Floyd fans or people just watching might already know why, because the first pressing has some problems with the Sound of Money, because the Sound of Money, it skips, and I've even heard a record seller speak about it half a year ago at a record fair. He was selling a first UK one, and he sold it for about $1,000 or something like that, and the person who bought it returned it the same day because it didn't sound good. To which the seller replied, yeah, but everyone knows the first one is not the best one in this case. The Dark Side of the Moon first pressing is flawed. You buy it because it's a collector's item. It's the second one you're after. And the second one is different because, although it comes in a black inner sleeve, it doesn't have the blue triangle. It has the triangle all the other ones have. And it's basically the blue triangle. And the idea that the first one is the first one, of course, that you're paying the high prices for. Yet, this second one is not a cheap pressing, because it comes from 1973. The amount of pressings that were made are very limited. It's not a very broad new release of the album. It goes for about an average of €109, and you gotta be aware that it has the A3, B3 stampers, because the B2 stamper still has the problem that the first UK one has. Now, comparing this to the other pressings, for example, the UK Harold T. Moss, the number 3 of this list, it's slightly brighter. It in the highs, it has more detail. It's about as dynamic as the Harold T. Moss one, but it seems to be overall more detailed. It has even more definition, especially noticeable in the voice. It's beautiful, it's clear, it's present, it is punchy, it has a beautiful, warm, full sound like a lot of UK pressings have. So that's also one of the big differences with the German one. This is a masterpiece of mastering. Yet, no. This is a beautiful pressing. The Yet is more about the entirety of what I've been listening to. I just spent a day comparing all these pressings, and what I found, putting on the first pressing of today, which was the first Dutch, until the last one, this album overall sounds stunning. It is a masterpiece of engineering. And if you're going to look out for the best sounding pressing, well, be sure to take my advice. The Harold T. Moss, the Kevin Gray is incredible. The Hans Nouse Dutch one, the first German one, the second UK one, you'll be having a ball. But also, the first NL is really, really good. This album almost always sounds good. The differences between these pressings are not like, I don't know any example, but there are a lot of records which come to life, fully come to life in a new version. And there are absolutely quality differences here. But I haven't heard a really bad sounding version of his album at all. It's always enjoyable. It's always a masterpiece. But if you want to find the best sounding version, they don't have to be the most expensive version. So I'd like to give you that. So I'm curious, what do you guys think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Leave a comment below and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.